Back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So reports, again, multiple fatalities, one of them a Boulder police officer. And look, I said it's just back to normal, another week, another white guy with a gun. We'll find out what triggered this, but it just seems like this is what happens. And here to share some thoughts, I'm sure we're going to disagree on this one. I've asked my good friend Joe Walsh to come back and talk with us. Joe's former Illinois congressman, current radio host, and nicer guy, to be honest. Joe, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, I always like being with you, Rick.
So give me the gun thing. What are your thoughts on what happened today?
No, there is no gun thing. There's no nothing because we don't know what happened.
Yeah,
I mean, Rick, all we know is there are multiple victims, including a Boulder police officer. What we all tend to do when stuff like this happens is we go to our political corners and we start firing our political shots before we know the who, what, when, where, why.
All I know, Joe, is a white guy with a gun shot a bunch of people in a supermarket. That's all I know at this point. That's all I've said I know.
Well, but even that, Rick, we don't know for certain. You and I saw video of some bare-chested white guy, handcuffed out of the store. We don't know. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I love
all the victims.
I love the assumption that maybe he could be innocent because bare-chested white guy being led away bleeding. Maybe he could be.
No.
innocent.
We don't even know. And that the press conference just a little bit ago by the police was terribly uninformative.
I agree.
We don't even know who the suspect is. That's all I'm saying.
All right. And that's a good place. I want to get some of your thoughts on the crisis on the border. I'm sure you've seen the headlines as everybody else has. The voters agree border crisis and they blame Biden. New Rasmussen report out says 67% of people say there's a crisis and it's 53% it's Biden's fault. AFP reported Republicans smell blood as Biden battles immigration crisis. CNN freaking N, how the border problem caught Biden team off guard. And my favorite, breaking, the Biden border crisis revealed in new photos. He said 60 days into this is a problem that's been decades in the making. Is this a crisis?
Well, I'd answer it like this, Rick. Yeah, it's a crisis. Anytime you have almost 1,000 unaccompanied minors coming into the country every day, that's a crisis. Trump had the same crisis. Obama had the same crisis. George W. Bush had the worst immigrant-migrant crisis. So it is a crisis that continues to reappear because our entire immigration system is broken.
We absolutely agree on that. And I blame Congress for it. I blame people like you who served in Congress who couldn't get something done. And the last time we tried was during the George W. Bush years, and we could get nothing accomplished.
Well, I agree with you. I blame Congress for most things because Congress should be passing laws. Instead, they've ceded so much of their power over to presidents that enact executive orders. Look, Rick, you and I, a good, committed, progressive Tea Party guy, we probably agree on the solution. We should make it a hell of a lot easier to come into this country legally. We should make it harder to come into this country illegally. We need to clean up our asylum process. And look, the Dreamers need permanency. That's it.
Why can't that happen? I mean, because we agree on that.
We do, Rick, and I'm a border hawk. So why can't we agree on that? Because Republicans generally don't want to do anything but secure the border. And Democrats traditionally haven't wanted to devote the resources as much to securing the border. So they've never really come together. It's easy. The solution's easy. The politics are tough.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is where I'm at. And I'll be honest, if I'm someone who's on the southern end of the border and I'm looking across that fence, that line, whatever, and I know over there I can feed my kids. There's nothing stopping me from getting there. So we have to have some kind of a policy to make that happen. But more importantly, we've got to figure out how do we keep people at home. And I blame the Tea Party movement for the attacks that they made on our foreign spending and how much we were spending on foreign aid that I think led to a large part of this kind of stuff.
No, you know what, Rick, that's part of it. But I'd say that's a small part of it because, again, the foreign aid
was a minuscule amount.
But it's peanuts. Look, I get it, and I'm with you, Rick. The vast majority of these people coming to our border are good, decent people who want a better way of life. Fine. There's a legal way to do that and an illegal way to do that. And applying for asylum is a perfectly legal way to do it. Now, Rick, you know that most of the people who apply for asylum don't qualify for asylum. So we get these big rushes at the border. 80% of these people, these unaccompanied minors, will not qualify for asylum. This has got to be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a problem, and it comes back to
and
our laws.
By the way, Rick, let me say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Biden deserves. This is Biden's problem. If Trump was a son of a bitch on the border, and he was, these good, decent people down in Central America, Rick, they pay attention to what we do and say up here. You know, for 4 years, they've had a son of a bitch who've said, I'm going to build the wall and deport you all. Okay. And then along comes Joe Biden, who says, I'm going to be the opposite of that. So they listened to what Biden said, and they watched what Biden did right after he got elected. And these good, smart people, Rick, figured now's the time to try to get in.
No, and I agree with you on that. And I believe that they had to be preparing for that to happen. I believe they had to be prepared.
Oh, totally.
They had to be preparing for an influx because you've got all this pent up, all these pent up numbers of people who wanted to come through. Now here's where I have a problem. I'm not a swing the doors open guy, and I'm also not a slam the door shut guy. So the problem is going to be, how do you find that happy median between who you take, where you take from, and how do you do that? I'm curious where you find yourself.
Well, you and I, Rick, very different politically. You don't want people just climbing across the border, do you?
No.
No. So
I want them to come here like my great grandparents did. They came through Ellis Island. They
right. So those are tied together. So right now, the process of becoming a legal American citizen is way too cumbersome. It takes too long, and it costs too much money. This is where I'm at odds with much of my former party. Right now, the Republican Party, they want to limit legal immigration as well. We need people here, and we always do better when we welcome immigrants legally. We've got to make that process, though, easier. Right. It just takes too long.
What do you do with the millions of people who are already here in an undocumented fashion? What do you do with the people? And look, I've been saying for a long time, we can't have people in the shadows. We can't have workers who are exploitable. We can't have folks who are some Republicans will call them illegal. I call them undocumented, whatever. That's semantics. We can't have them in the shadows. What do you do with them?
That's the elephant in the room. Now, again, I'm a border hawk, but even I recognize that the dreamers are a special class. These kids who came here as kids through no fault of their own, they need to be given permanency. But, the number of the 11 to 22 people who are in this country illegally, I don't think giving them, Rick, any pathway to citizenship is fair when it comes to everybody else who's been waiting in that line to do it the right way for so many years. So maybe get them out of the shadows, but talk about some sort of legalization, but they shouldn't get any pathway to citizenship before they get in line.
But here's where that rub is then, because you're not going to get people who are going to go out of the country and then try and come back when they've already built lives here. And then you're saying, the dreamers should be able to stay so that the children can stay, but the parents have to go. This is where you're just talking about so much chaos.
And this And Rick, this is why the whole damn thing's broken, because every 20 or 30 years we do this and we come down to this one question. All right, Joe, what do we do with that 15 million who are here illegally now? And let's let them all stay. And then we have the problem. Then you and I are going to have the same conversation in another 30 years. Rick and Joe, what do we do now with the next 15 million? We've got to stop this. Because again, it's telling people, come to America, sooner or later, you're going to be fine.
See, again, these are folks who were desperate. They came here because there was opportunity, and you had an employer class who encouraged it. I've talked with people, in fish markets in Massachusetts who tell you, look, they have got recruiters in these countries who say, if you can make it to this town in Massachusetts, you're going to have a job, and this employer will hire you. I'm sorry, I can't be on the side of a policy that's going to be punitive and attack the lowest common denominator. I think we should be going after the employers. We should be going after the people who encouraged it instead of the people who are, I would argue, almost victims of this whole thing.
And Rick, I agree with that, but I think you go after both. Again, go after the employers, go after the corporations. But if you enter this country knowingly, illegally, and we do nothing, then in essence, Rick, you don't have a border. And look, we can't do that. I agree, go after the companies that are hiring these folks. And I agree, most of these folks have the best of intentions. But come on, man, you've got to have a border and enforce your immigration laws, or you're not a sovereign nation.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do over this. I personally don't see. I hold no hope of this being solved anytime soon, and this is going to just be something that the Republicans see as an opportunity to attack Joe Biden over.
I agree, Rick. And by the way, what I just told you means I'd lose in a Republican primary because I guess I'm not hawkish enough. But it's not only Republicans that play politics with this issue. Both sides like this issue because it revs up their base.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if this is revving up the base because Biden's getting attacked over not being transparent enough, not allowing photos to come out, not doing enough fast enough. I mean, he's been president 2 months, and I know people who think it should be all done by now.
Well, by the way, that's a separate issue. And if again, shame on the Biden administration because they should allow our media, i.e. the American people, to see observe, have access to what's going on down there. If the Trump administration didn't give the media access to the facilities where these kids are, you and I would be screaming. The media would be screaming.
No, I'm screaming. I think Biden, the administration, made a mistake. I thought on January 20th they should have parked reporters in there day one to report this is the problem. And be transparent about it through the whole thing. This is what we're trying to do. This stuff takes time. You can't snap your fingers and undo 30 years of ignoring this problem.
Rick, and that's what's inexplicable to me. It's like they were blindsided by this. And you and I know from the moment Biden won back in November, again, these good, decent folks down in Central America, they said, now is our chance. The Biden administration was briefed on this. They should have seen this coming.
Yeah, well, it's not going to go away anytime soon. Do you see any hope for legislation at all?
No, infrastructure, not immigration. No.
Yeah. And that's coming. Today, the news broke $3 trillion they're looking at spending on infrastructure. Is that too much, you think? You were a spending guy.
I don't know. As you and I have talked before, our roads, bridges, and all the rest, man, they haven't been fixed up in years. The infrastructure in this country's fallen apart. So, yeah, I don't know what the number is, but that's what our focus should be.
And not just our roads and bridges, but, the infrastructure of the 21st century. The reality is, whoever controls 5G, and the Chinese are really going full bore ahead, whoever controls the 5G controls the world.
Agreed. but I don't want to beat a dead horse, Rick, and I know you know this, but our roads and bridges are falling apart. Our pipes are falling apart. I mean, just the basic, bare bones infrastructure in this country has not been updated, fixed in 50, 60, 70, 80 years.
So how did we get here, Joe? I mean, this is another one of those moments where, this used to be, as my friend Bob Ney always said, a yawn vote. Everybody believed in infrastructure. This was nonpartisan. And again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to blame the Tea Party again.
Okay, you blame the Tea Party. I've got an answer for you.
Okay, I'm going to partially blame the Tea Party because they were all against the pork barrel spending. And this was a lot of pork barrel spending. This is what congressmen brought home to their districts.
I'm going to blame the Democratic Party, and I'm going to blame the Republican Party, because for the last 50 to 60 years, longer, we've grown a federal government that is so damn big and does so damn much that the federal government doesn't have the basic money to do the basic things like our infrastructure that it's supposed to do. So, Rick, when guys like me came along back in 2010, because we're $12 trillion in debt, yeah, a bunch of people said no money for anything. But that's because we've got government out there that's so in debt and has been spending money on things it shouldn't focus on instead of things like infrastructure that it should.
See, that's where I would throw back at you. The fact is we cut the top marginal tax rate so badly that we continued our spending and without cutting our spending, but we cut our revenues. And I know Republicans love to say, no, tax cuts pay for themselves. They don't, and they haven't. So we kept spending at the rate we were spending before, and we were giving money away. This has been the lesson, and we've learned it. I don't know that we've learned it.
I think we have a government we can't afford. I mean, pre-pandemic, we were $24 trillion in debt. Yeah. Rick, you and I have talked. Medicare is going to be insolvent in 10 to 12 years. Social Security is a pipe dream right now. We have a government we can't afford, and neither party wants to make some tough decisions.
Well, we got a lot of work ahead of us. Joe, I appreciate the time. Always great talking with you, my friend. I hope you'll come back again and talk with us again.
Always. Thanks, Rick.
Good stuff. Our good friend Joe Walsh. Look, at the end of the day, we may disagree, but I think we want to get down the road to the same direction. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.